Hey, welcome back to Tim Talks. Thanks for joining us today. Today, we are talking, are you ready for this? We are talking flourless keto red velvet cake. You heard me right. That's flourless keto red velvet cake. You're going to love this recipe. Let's get started. This great recipe was inspired by a conversation I had over social media with a couple of other YouTube cooks who I really like a lot. Sahil of Headbangers Kitchen and the guy from Highfalutin Low Carb. And we were talking about making keto red velvet cake one day this week. And I launched the Keto Red Velvet Challenge. And anyway, in sort of jest, I did that. And I became determined to make this cake. So here's what we got. Here you've got 7 ounces of 85% or higher chocolate. This is very nice chocolate right here. I've got 4 eggs that I've separated, as you can see here, into yolks and whites. And when you do this, be very careful. Absolutely no yolk at all in the whites or they won't whip up right. You're also going to need some Truvia or other sweetener of your choice. You're going to need some instant espresso or other coffee that you like. This is 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter. We also are going to need some pure vanilla extract, some red food coloring, of course, to make it red velvet, some cream of tartar to stabilize our eggs, and we're also going to need ½ cup of heavy whipping cream. Our first order of business is going to be to melt the chocolate and the butter together. Here I've got sort of a makeshift bain-marie or double boiler. You can also do this in the microwave if you want. I prefer to do it this way because I tend not to overdo it. In the microwave, if you're going to use that, you want to do it in bursts of about 15 to 20 seconds and check it because you don't want the chocolate to burn or to become all grainy. Of course, in a bain-marie, it's a little bit slower. And here's how you do this. I've got this glass bowl here, for example. I'm setting it on top of a pan that it's bigger than, and I'm going to boil some water. The water is not going to touch the bottom of this pan. What we're going to do here is we're going to create some steam, and that's going to create a gentle heat that will melt our chocolate fairly slowly, but that will also make it much less likely that we're going to burn it. Actually, it can't burn this way. It's the heat just won't get hot enough. And we're going to melt the butter with it. We're going to incorporate them together and make a really smooth mixture. It's been about 2 minutes now, and I'm maintaining kind of a medium heat under this. You can see that the chocolate's already starting to melt. Won't be much longer now. Once it starts going, it's pretty fast. We get that butter down in there. But this is a really good way to melt chocolate, very gentle heat. And you can just sort of stir it around. And you want to watch over it until it's all melted. And we're melting, and we're melting, and we're still melting, and melting. Really, it's not that bad. It's only been about 5 minutes now. And now you can see it's almost there. Got just a few little chunks in there still melting away. And here we go. Now it's all melted, and we're ready to add some other ingredients. Okay, we've taken the chocolate and butter off heat. I'm going to clean up my spatula with my handy dandy whisk. Set that aside. And now we're going to add our egg yolks. And we're going to do that one at a time, more or less. Get that in there. Stir it in. Get number 2 going there. You see there's really nothing to this. And our last one, and the last little bits of egg yolk and chocolate out of there. All right. To this, we're also going to add a fourth of a cup of Truvia. That's a quarter of a cup or 4 tablespoons. Mix that in. Don't be too wild with it. I almost pushed it out of the dish there in a little cloud. This smells really great. By the way, my oven is preheating to 325. We're also going to add in our cream. I want to make sure we get every bit of that. There we go. Now we're going to add in some flavorings. First, we're going to add a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Pretty standard in most chocolate recipes. As is our next ingredient. This one might surprise you a little bit. This is instant espresso. You can also use just about any kind of instant coffee here. I'm going to add a good half a teaspoon to this. It's not going to make our chocolate cake taste like coffee. It's just going to enhance that really lovely dark chocolate flavor and make it just a little bit darker, and that's a really good thing. It's just going to enhance that darkness and make it really lovely, and that's a good thing. The next thing we need to add, of course, is our red food coloring. I'm going to start by adding a tablespoon and see how that works in here. Let's have a look. Stir them up. Oh, it's looking pretty red already. The thing is, I don't want to use too much red food coloring. Just enough. That's looking pretty red to me. I think I might like that. Or do we need to add just a tad more? That's very pretty. I'm going to add about another half a tablespoon here. There we go. Definitely put the cap on your red food coloring, because if you knock that over, that's going to really mess up your kitchen. Look at that. Look at that beautiful red color we got going on there. I think that's going to work. That is a thing of true beauty. I'm going to scrape down the sides here real quick. And set this aside. Now it's time to get to our egg whites. Now these egg whites, we're going to beat them to stiff peaks, and I'm going to put them in the bowl of my stand mixer. And you're going to need a handheld or stand mixer to do this. I'm going to add to that a pinch of kosher salt, as well as a quarter of a teaspoon of cream of tartar. Both of these things are going to help stabilize the egg whites so that they don't deflate any more than we can keep them from doing in the process of our cooking here. Well, here I'm just going to attach this to my mixer, get my whisk on there. Lift up the bowl and get started. When you're beating egg whites in a stand mixer like this, or even with a handheld mixer, you want to start off kind of slow. You just want to get them to kind of a foamy state. You don't need to turn it on the highest whipping speed at first. You're going to let this go just a little bit and gradually increase the speed. And I know the angle is a little difficult, but you can see here, I'm trying to adjust that, you can see here, now the egg whites are getting foamy. Maybe start to get beaten up a little bit. And you can turn that on high. You're going to want to put that on the highest speed that your mixer has. Now you can see that they're starting to really form up here. We don't want to let this go too far, but again, we want stiff peaks here. We're going to fold that chocolate mixture into here, and we need that to stand up to it. This is going to be the structure for our cake. It's going to play the role that flour would otherwise have done. Flour and baking soda or baking powder. That's getting pretty good. To see whether your eggs are ready to go, you're going to have to take the whisk off it, in my case, and you lift it up, and as you can see here, the peak that it makes stands on its own and is just fine. It does so on the tip of the whisk as well. It keeps its shape. These are stiffly beaten egg whites, and we're ready for the next step. Now my oven is preheated to 325 degrees, and I also have prepared, before we get started with this, I've prepared a glass baking dish here. You could use a pie plate or whatever baking thing you want to use. And I've also lined it, I've got it buttered generously, and I've also put a sheet of parchment. That's the size of the bottom in there. I just traced around the bottom of the bowl, cut out a circle of parchment, and stuck it in there on the buttered side. I don't need to butter that because the cake batter won't stick to it. Here we've got our stiffly beaten egg whites. And we're going to incorporate our chocolate mixture into it slowly. We're going to start by taking just some of the whites, just a little bit, out. And we're going to lighten up our chocolate mixture here by folding them in gently and completely here. This will help it when, in the next step, when we're going to fold this chocolate mixture in about 3 different batches into the egg whites. We're going to do our best not to deflate them. And you can see that's nicely incorporated. Now let's put our bowl where it can be seen. And here I'm going to start by adding about 1/3 of this or so into our beaten egg whites. And here's how you fold it in. You pull in, fold it over. It's literally folding. Move your bowl around as you do it. Again, our goal is to keep this light and airy. And that makes a nice red color. This is going to be a pretty cake. That's nice. I'm going to incorporate some more here. You just want to make sure you don't do this all in one go. You're going to overwhelm your egg whites and you're going to deflate them and the cake won't rise as much. Oh, red velvet cake is always a lovely thing to have around. It's something I really have missed since I've been on the keto diet. And we'll get this last bit in there. And then we'll be ready to put it in our cake mold. And there we have it. And now we're ready to put this into our cake pan. We're just going to pour it on in there. I think it turned out a really pretty color. We'll see how it bakes up. Again, get every drop that's possible. Because this is delicious cake, you know, besides that chocolate's expensive. And you know you want dessert now. I've been going through this. Man, does that smell wonderful? That's some beautiful chocolate, let me tell you what. Okay, so here we go. We're going to give it a shake. And this is ready to go in our 325-degree oven for, I'm thinking, probably somewhere around 45 minutes. That's what I'm going to set the timer for. We'll be back to see what it looks like when that's done. Okay, the timer's gone off. We're going to get this out of the oven, let it cool thoroughly, and then we're going to put it in the refrigerator overnight. Our cake has been in the refrigerator overnight, and now it's time to unmold it. And you've got to be wondering, how the heck am I going to do that? Well, first of all, if you use a springform pan, and here I think you need a 7-inch springform pan for this one, it's going to be a lot easier to unmold than this. However, we're brave about it. And in this glass dish, here's how we're going to do it. What I've done, first of all, is I've taken a sharp knife and I've run it around the edge all the way down to the bottom of the pan, which you remember is covered with a sheet of parchment. The next thing I'm going to do is, just so the plate I'm going to use to invert it doesn't stick to the top, I'm going to use a sheet of parchment again. I put a small plate in here. And then I'm going to invert it and hope that it just comes right on out of there. Okay, and here we go. Now I've inverted it, which, by the way, took a little trip to the microwave for about 15 seconds because, of course, the parchment was stuck to the bottom of the dish with butter. We're going to remove that slowly and carefully. There we go. You can see I'm making a bit of a mess. We've got some crumblies down here. Not a big deal. Then we're going to put this onto our cake plate. So here, after a little bit of struggle, is our red velvet flourless cake on a platter. You can see that it's not the prettiest right here. We've got some crumblies with little cracks. We're going to frost this so nobody will ever know. Here in the bowl of my stand mixer, I've got 8 ounces of cream cheese that's softened, as well as 2 sticks of butter that has also been softened. I've added 2 tablespoons of Truvia to that. I don't want this to be super sweet. The cake is really sweet. I'm also going to add about a teaspoon of vanilla extract. We're going to blend this until it's smooth in the stand mixer, and then we'll be ready to frost our cake. No need, I suppose, to show you the whole process. I'm going to use the paddle attachment here for my stand mixer. Of course, if you're using a hand mixer, you just use the beaters. And I'm going to beat this until it's nice and smooth, and then we can frost our cake with it. It really doesn't take much. I'm going to scrape this bowl down, give it another whirl, and then we're going to frost the cake. Okay, now to decorate this thing, I'm going to start by putting a nice big blob of frosting right in the middle. And this frosting is, since the cream cheese and the butter were softened, it should be pretty easy to spread. We want to be very gentle with this. We're going to be generous with the frosting, but we're also going to spread it in a way where we don't end up, like I have here, with a bunch of crumbs in our frosting. We're just going to pick those out, and we're going to continue on our way until we've covered the entire top of the cake. Okay, and now I've got the top covered. Now, you've noticed that my cake is a little crumbly, and like here I had little crumblies over here, and I just kind of glued things back together with this frosting. It's not a sign that this is a dry cake. Actually, what it is a sign of is that it's a chilled cake that's got a lot of cream and butter in it, and that's what we pretty much got here. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to frost the sides here, and then I'll show you the finished cake when I'm done. Okay, now I really don't make many cakes, and I certainly don't frost them very often. It's just not the sort of thing I usually do. But here's one thing I'm going to do before I frost the edges of this cake. I'm going to stick these strips of parchment paper underneath the cake so that the cleanup will be a little easier when we're done here. And here I'm just going to lift it up with a knife and sit it back down there. And of course, here's the thing. You want to do this before you get started. In my case, you can see it's not irreparable that I didn't do that, but this will really make a big difference once we're done. So now here you see what before was a pretty worrisome looking cake. I've got it covered with the frosting here, and yes, you can see a few specks of little crumblies here and there. And that's not a problem, because here what we're going to do is we're going to garnish this by sprinkling it with cocoa powder. Here I've got a tablespoon of dark chocolate cocoa powder, and I'm going to put it in my sieve, and I'm going to just shake it over the top. And you know, like I said before, I don't make a lot of cakes, and I really don't decorate cakes very rarely. But here you can see there's really nothing to it, especially when you've got a beautiful thing like this. I think that's just gorgeous. Put this in the fridge for about 2 hours. So our next step here is going to be to put this in the refrigerator again for about 2 hours to get the icing to firm up. And then we'll remove the pieces of parchment paper. Now the cake's been in the refrigerator for 2 hours, and it looks pretty good, right? I've removed the parchment. Got just a few crumbs around here. Again, my presentation is never quite perfect. And let's see if we can get a nice slice out of this now. Okay, wish me luck on this, because what I'm going to try to do is make the cleanest slice of this cake that I can. I'm going to do that. I've got here a nice sharp kitchen knife, and this is a pint glass that is full with warm water. I also have a clean kitchen towel right here handy to wipe it off with. I'm going to dip my knife in here, warm it up a little bit before we go on in there. And now I'm going to wipe that off and make a slice into our cake. I'm going to do it very carefully, so I don't want the cake to fragment. I'm just going to be careful. We're going to slide that out of there slowly and easily. Come on, baby. There we go. Because again, it's been in the refrigerator for a while, and this has got quite a bit of butter in it. I'm going to dip this in here again. I'm going to wipe the residue off. Go in for another cut. Here we go. Getting a fairly small slice here. There's a lot of calories in this. This is a beautiful dessert, and it's a lovely treat. but you can have a slice about this size, which is probably about an eighth, once a day, and still stay on your keto diet. I'm going to dip that in there one more time. Need a plate to serve this on. Wipe it off again. Again, we've got to keep our knife clean for this to work properly. And I'm going to see if I can just slide that right out of there. Pretty easily. And there we go. And look at that. It's a beautiful red color. Let's get that onto a plate. And there we have it. Look at that beautiful thing. Oh, I knocked it over just trying to show you the beautiful red color of that. I'm very happy with that. Let's give this a taste. I do believe we're ready to give this thing a taste. Let's try it. I have a good feeling about this. Okay, I surrender. Red velvet cake, I love you. No, this is really beautiful and delicious. It's an absolutely luxurious cake. It's it's got a wonderful texture. It's very smooth and moist. And with that cream cheese frosting, it's gorgeous. And then of course you've got the beautiful red color. Man, that is some great cake. I'm telling you what, Headbangers Kitchen and Highfalutin Low Carb have got their work cut out for them. Up to you now, guys. Let's see what you got. Thanks for watching Tim Talks today. We'll catch you next time.